The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.
It is the Morning Sports Desk on a Tuesday, the 22nd of October. I'm CJ Baumgartner. There's Corey Tackman. Corey, we made it. Playoffs. Here we go. Playoffs?
I'm ready.
You kidding me? Playoffs.
I'm ready, Jim Mora Sr. I am ready.
How about Jim Mora Jr.? He just got a tirade over officials. I think last night he was in kind of a screaming match with himself.
Good.
Runs in the family, you know?
Couldn't happen to a better guy.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs. You kidding me?
We're talking playoffs because we have section football playoffs, section quarterfinal action tonight. We have a couple games on our Hubbard Radio-Wadena stations. Corey, I'm going to kick it to you first. A little section 6A football on the Super Station tonight.
Yeah, we have the 3-seed Parkers Prairie hosting the 6-seed Ashby, Brandon, Evansville. Parkers Prairie is 5-3. Ashby, Brandon, Evansville 3-5 on the regular season. For the Parkers Prairie Panthers, a unbelievable start to the year, right, CJ? They go 4 straight, and
they didn't allow a defensive touchdown through their first 4 games.
Only gave up 6 points in the first 4 games of the season, and scored roughly close to 200 points. It looks like a rough stretch for 3 weeks in a row, losing tough one to Breckenridge, to Staples Motley, and then Pillager before closing out the season with a 57-0 victory over Pine River Bacchus. The Panthers should be ready to roll. This is a very, very top-heavy competitive Section 6A, and we'll take a look at the rest of that bracket here in just a second. But I do want to tell you about the Ashby, Brandon, Evansville team, whose nickname, CJ, is?
ABE.
No.
Well, I mean, it is Ashby, Brandon. But yeah, you're talking about their mascot. Yeah, they're the Bolts, aren't they?
They are the Bolts. That's exactly right. Is I believe year 2 of Ashby, Brandon, Evansville, and that combination.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right. This is such a terrible. They could have been the Vagotas. They could have been the Lincolns. They had so many different hilarious options out there that they could have run with.
They should have, like the Loggers or something, like a log.
If they would have been the Abe Lincolns and then all their chin straps were like fuzzy like his beard.
Mm-hmm.
Fun you could have had with that.
We could have had so much.
What a missed opportunity, Ashby, Brandon, Evansville.
To be fair, there's nothing that like rolls off the tongue, I guess. There's nothing that's like immediately brandable, but still, like, if you had like Washington, I know that the abbreviation doesn't work out, but if it's like Washington, you can at least call yourself like the Generals or something.
Right.
Lincoln was just a president, and unless you're going to call yourself I guess he was a senator, so you call yourself the Senators, but he wasn't famous for being a senator.
You could have done like the Emancipators.
Oh, missed opportunity. You could have called them, I don't know.
The Honest.
Yeah.
The ABE Honest. That would have been terrible. We're just spitballing here, CJ.
Yeah, it's called the think session. We're just creativity. We're letting the mind work a little bit here. Bolts isn't bad because, of course, before when they were Brandon Evansville, they were the Chargers.
Bolts.
The Arrows. So
2 straight wins to start the season. Over Rothsay and Underwood, 3 straight losses, Hancock, Hillcrest, and OTC. A win over Ortonville and a regular season loss to Border West to end the regular season. So like
a 9-man schedule.
This is the 3-6 matchup in 6A football. On the same side of the bracket, the 2-seed is Breckenridge. They'll take on the 7-seed Lake Park Audubon. On the other half of the bracket, top-seeded West Central area will play 8-seed Pine River Bacchus, and the 4-seed Walker Hackensack Akeley will take on the 5-seed New York Mills. I don't want this to come across as disrespectful. So I want that disclaimer out there into the world, because I don't want anybody to think I've discounted you.
Okay.
But anybody 1 through 5 in this section can win it.
Yeah, I think so.
Anybody 1 through 5 in Section 6A, I feel like is probably in play for the section championship. No disrespect to everyone else. This is a deep, deep section.
It's a lot of parity. And I've talked with coaches in this section, and they all believe the same thing, that it's anybody's game. I mean, West Central area has, they've got the best record, but they haven't played, the amount of like opponents. So it's tough to gauge how good. Yeah, I'm not denying they're a good team, but it's tough to gauge like comparatively.
Correct.
Against teams like Breckenridge and against teams like Parkers Prairie and New York Mills and other teams in that section who have played each other, Walker, Hackensack, Akeley. All those should be good games. And really, it's anybody's guess as to who gets to the Fargo Dome. So it's going to be fascinating to see what happens in that section. Ashby, Brandon, Evansville, they played a 9-man schedule. They didn't have the record that they probably would have liked to have had. But Brandon Evansville and Dan Johnson, their head coach, and stuff like that, their coaching staff, they were a good coaching staff when they were Brandon Evansville and the Chargers. And that was a respectable program that they had. And the one thing, they have good football players. I think they're well coached. I think all that good stuff. The transition, though, from 9-man to 11-man for a postseason game, when you've played 9-man all season, and now after one singular practice, now have to go, all right, 11-man. Throw a couple more guys on the field. That on offense, theoretically, it's not the end of the world because the play designs are still kind of similar and there's things. Defensively, though, it'll be interesting because the field's bigger and it's all about, when you play zone or man, like you match up differently, your formations are different. At the end of the day, it's all football. So I'm not trying to take anything away, but that's not an easy ask for a team to basically have one practice that you're allowed to have and then go to play, just completely switch the style of football you're playing by having 2 more guys on the field.
It depends. And the answer to that probably lies in, are you a power running team or not?
Right.
Because if you're a power running team, then essentially your offense is going to look exactly the same. And instead of rotating receivers in and out, you are just going to have your remaining receivers out on the field. If you're a power running team, you're probably running double tights and everybody's in the backfield. So all you have to do now is you just bring in 2 guys out onto the field to go wide left and wide right and just block down field, I guess. If that's the case, then not much changes. But if you like to throw the ball and you've got athletes on the outside and now you have to talk about bringing in 2 more linemen, probably just aren't very deep at that position. And so that's where things get a little wonky. But Section 6A is wide open. And of course, on a Tuesday night, we play a little early, 5:40 pregame, 6 o'clock kickoff. Again, that's on 105.9 FM, Superstation K106, and online, WadenaRadio.com.
Yeah. And by the way, talking with the Parkers Prairie head coach, Mike Johnson, he's not taking this opponent lightly. He's ready to go. Parkers Prairie, the defending Section 6A champions. They made their first state tournament appearance in 20 years last year, and they are not looking to wait that long to get back there. They have a good chance to do so this year with a very, very veteran team. A lot of seniors on that team. Should be a good one tonight. Tyler Grunwald on the call on that one on the Superstation. On 101.7 FM and AM 920 KWAD. Also streaming online at WadenaRadio.com/KWAD. A little Section 5 9-man football between Sebeka and Verndale, and the Trojans going on the road to Malin Field for all the miles Sebeka football has put on this season. And we did the math preseason. Was like 900 miles round trip. They have to be thanking their lucky stars that they only have to go to Verndale.
Yeah, it's all you got to tack on about 20 more or whatever, but
right.
Yeah, it could. Another trip across the entire state is probably not something they were hoping for. And in a 4-5 matchup, Cripes, they were this close to even hosting.
Right, exactly. They, Verndale, and Bertha Hewitt were all 4-4 on the season. Tiebreakers all canceled each other out. My guess is went down to points scored, points allowed, and all that. And Verndale ended up getting the home game, which just got off the phone with Coach Malin doing a pregame interview. He's very thankful they don't have to get on a bus and go anywhere either. So both Sebeka and Verndale are just happy that they got the victories in that alone. But looking around the bracket, Nevis is going to host Carleton Renshaw in the 1-8 matchup. Nevis, of course, the defending state champions. They're the 1. Verndale in the 4-5 matchup with Sebeka. On the other side of the bracket, number 2 Cromwell Wright area is the 2 seed taking on the 7-seeded McGregor. 3-seeded Ogilvie hosting the 6-seeded Bertha Hewitt. Back to this game, though, talking with Coach Malin, and I'm going to talk with Coach Burgow as soon as we get done doing this episode of the Sports Desk, Corey, for Sebeka. But they played each other in week 2. Verndale won, and Coach Malin mentioned this, and I'm sure Coach Burgow mentioned it too. Sebeka is a better football team in week 2 than they are now. They are a better football team now than they were in week 2. I should say it like that. They're a good team. They've gotten better over the season. They're gaining momentum in terms of just the Sebeka football program in general, and they're feeling good about where they're at. And Coach Malin said, hey, we're also a much better team than we were at the beginning of the season. We found our footing, figured some things out, and mainly the passing game. He said the one area they've just gotten better at from August to now is the passing game. As you know, Corey, Verndale's a team that likes to get in the wishbone, and they just like to run and run and run, and then they'll run a tight end cross, and then they'll run again. They found some momentum. Sean Schmitz at quarterback, the left arm, all the other things. Has just been he's thrown the ball really well, and against Nevis, a tough team, I thought he threw the ball extremely well, threw it into some tight windows, made some nice plays. That'll be, I think, the difference maker will be, I think, if Verndale, just how that passing game works. I think if they get that going, it's going to be tough to stop, especially in 9-man, I think, because teams just aren't used to playing pass coverage all game long. Now, Verndale was down in that game for most of the second half, so they had to throw against Nevis a lot more. Obviously, they're going to try and balance it out a little bit, but I think that's a little extra layer. I haven't seen Sebeka play this season, but I know they've had some good wins over Bertha Hewitt. They've had some obviously good games throughout the season. They are a team that they're the team that's also looking to get a playoff win. I'm trying to think. I don't believe they've had a playoff win since becoming the Trojans. I'd have to look at that just a little bit deeper.
Played each other in the playoffs a year ago.
Right. I think same exact setting.
But I can't remember. It was in Verndale, but I guess I would assume it was probably a 4-5 or a 3-6 a year ago.
Yeah. And did that game go to overtime? I can't remember. Like that was, from what I remember, I think you did that last year. I think it was a pretty good game.
It was competitive. Yeah. I think the final score, I'm having a hard time. I can't remember.
They're all going to run together at a certain point, right?
But I don't think the final score ended up being that close, but I think it ended up being, it was a more competitive game necessarily than the score indicated.
Yeah. And I expect it to be a nice competitive game.
Spicy, and they're all back.
Right. It's going to be a nice competitive game here today, I think, for both teams. So it'll be a fun one to listen to. It'll be a fun one for me to watch here tonight. Dirk Schultz will also join me in the Malin Field press box, which is, nice and climate controlled. So we're going to be feeling pretty good about that one. The nice part about that program, they play a lot of football games late in the year at home, and they make sure it's built for that. So much appreciated on the press side of things. Once again, KWAD 101.7 FM, AM 920, and streaming online at wadenaradio.com/KWAD. 26-22, by the way, Verndale won a year ago in Verndale.
Oh, there we go.
That was the final score there.
That was indicative of the competitiveness of that game.
Sebeka did win a playoff game, by the way. They won in 2022. They played Brandon Evansville, and they won 24-22 in that quarterfinal matchup, and then they played Wheaton Herman Norcross and fell there. But Sebeka did get a playoff win since going back to 9-man, which now it's been kind of a sneaky long time, right, Corey? Because that program obviously was United North Central when they were paired with Monaga, but since going back to Sebeka, I believe around 2020, maybe 2019, I'm trying to look back here in the record.
You're a years guy. I'm not. I have no idea when.
I'm going to say 2020 just for sake of my own, sake of my own conscience. We're going with that since this decade, pretty much. Anyway, moving on to some other things going on in the mornings.
Can I very quickly?
Yeah.
As a quick tease, you've put out internally anyway. We're going to have playoff volleyball tomorrow.
Uh-huh.
And we're going to see Verndale and Sebeka in a rematch of tonight's football game, except the volleyball teams will be playing tomorrow night on the Superstation, and Crookston at Wadena Deer Creek tomorrow night on KWAD. And we'll talk about more about that tomorrow, but I just thought that was kind of a fun little wrinkle in our broadcast schedule, is that we're going to get to see those two schools. Pretty strong rivalry between those two communities on 2 nights in a row. So I suspect a lot of yelling.
And by the way, that one will be in Sebeka tomorrow night.
Correct.
And a one-sided gym. Those football players are all going to come up and cheer on the volleyball team, their volleyball teams, and they're going to be pretty close to each other. And whichever team comes out on the winning end, I guarantee you at a certain point in the game, we'll be chanting, "Let's play football."
Definitely. That's definitely how that's going to go.
That's definitely how it's going to happen. All right, Corey, just one more time, we're going to tell you Anna Feemeyer, Kaylee Endress joined the Morning Sports Desk. We put that episode out yesterday. They were a great interview. Go find it online at WadenaRadio.com, Superstation K106 mobile app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts, the Hubbard Radio Wadena YouTube page, and on Sports Cow on Facebook. Go follow Sports Cow. It's where we're putting all of our sports content just to kind of streamline that. Your place for Central Minnesota sports, Sports Cow. Moo. One more needs to be said. Corey, I'm just going to put this out there. We talked about this for a while. We knew it was coming. We were waiting for it. There was a tease it was coming today, and it's finally here. They did it. Those madmen, they did it. They recreated the picture.
How good is it?
They did it. ESPN, the magazine, which I don't think prints anymore, but they should print a special edition just for this one. This is the cover photo of this issue. Anthony Edwards, Justin Jefferson, Minnesota's coldest. They recreated the Randy Moss, Kevin Garnett photo. It's not an exact one-to-one comparison. I think the Garnett Moss one is a little goofier maybe, and I don't mean that as like a bad thing. They just kind of
silly.
like,
you can see it down bottom right hand corner, by the way.
Yeah,
you can see it there in one of the comments.
But this one, they're cold. They're Minnesota's coldest. They got the glasses on. They're mean mugging. Look at it.
If you are a Minnesota sports fan of a certain age, the nostalgia when you see this picture there's nothing. I understand why nostalgia is such a dangerous drug, because man, oh man, is that just awesome. I love it. I love it, CJ. I love it.
10 out of 10, no notes. Mwah, chef's kiss. Like, what's that?
By the way, there's interviews. I've seen clips of interviews where Ant says if he wins a title in the next 3 or 4 years, he's going to the NFL. They talk about, could you play in the NFL? Could I play in the NBA? And Ant is, of course, insistent that he could immediately step into the NFL. And JJ is like, no, man, you're going to get hit once and you're going to be reminded. And JJ is like, I could definitely score. I'm too athletic to not be able to score. And Ant's like, no way, man. And it's not going to, I mean, it's the classic, it's just the classic sports argument these two guys are having. And I mean, these two are the best. They're, if in JJ's case, the best receiver in football, and in Ant's case, like, we're talking about a guy who could win an MVP in the next 5 years.
Mm-hmm. It's
crazy.
It's beautiful. It's beautiful. I think there's like a Kim Kardashian tweet caption that's just, he's here and he's perfect with an exclamation point. He's here and he's perfect. That's this right here. And you talked about the nostalgia it is for people of your age. And I was there, I was on the fringes. Like, I remember Kevin Garnett. I remember Randy Moss, but like, you know, for most of my real sports watching life, Kevin Garnett was a Celtic and Randy Moss was a Patriot, like both in Boston, of course, both unprecedented runs of success, of course, beside the point. But like, I still remember those guys, and they were still talked about, and it was still, even though they both were gone, they still were talked about like they were on the team and things like that. So, you know, I still say I'm a part of the Moss and Garnett. I'm going to take credit for that just a little bit, even though I'm on the outer edges of that. I'm certainly not in the camp of like, being a kid in school. But imagine this, like, I know magazines aren't a thing anymore, but you go to the school library, Corey, you're 10 years old, you open the door, you turn and see all the magazines that they have there, and boom, you see that picture of Jefferson and Ant. If I was 10 years old, I would have grabbed that magazine immediately.
As a matter of fact, it would have been a fight between most of my friends to see who was going to rip the cover off of it and have no one else in the school ever be able to see it because it was going on your wall at home.
Right. Exactly. I mean, if they blow that up into a poster, do kids still do posters in their room?
They should.
Corey's going to go find that picture, blow it up, put it on a poster, and shove it in his kid's bedroom.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right. I love it, man. I just love, I love it. I love it because they're relevant too. It's not, they didn't force feed this idea of like, they could have easily tried to do this with Karl Anthony Towns and I don't know who was the receiver on the
on Diggs.
Yeah. Or Adam Thielen. Right. And both who are obviously awesome and really important to their franchises and the fans around those sports. But those guys have never been nationally relevant to the sport.
What are you talking about? You don't think a Kevin Garnett, a Kevin Love, Adrian Peterson one would have sufficed?
I mean, you probably could have done AP on that.
Yeah. I mean,
these guys are they're two of the main talking points when every single week you talk about what's going on in their respective sports. You can't talk about the sport without bringing up these two guys.
Right. In a way it's a force feeding because we've talked about this for years, but also ESPN would not have recreated this if they didn't believe it was worth the hype.
It's a force feeding because for the first time since Moss and Garnett made that picture, it's relevant.
And a lot of it just is the Wolves have never had a player the Wolves have never had a player like Ant. I know Garnett, he's got a way to go to past Garnett and legacy, but in terms of like the raw talent and the places Ant could go, like the Wolves have never had a player like this.
Well, KG was an MVP.
That's true.
He was an MVP and led a team to and was a part of a Western Conference Finals team. Now, Ant has also now been to a Western Conference Finals. He's not, you can pick your poison now. They're the same guy in their career. Ant just happened to have reached that plateau significantly sooner.
Right. And with Justin Jefferson, I mean, just everything. Obviously.
He's in the line of it's Minnesota Twins center fielders and it's Vikings wide receivers. He's in a long line of a pretty unbelievable list of names. And he's probably right now number 2.
Yeah.
Behind Carter. I would put Chris Carter 1 and then Jefferson 2 and then Moss 3 because
if we're talking what they did as Vikings, then yeah, definitely.
Correct. Well, yeah, right, exactly. As Vikings receivers.
Yeah. No argument there. Anyway, go check this picture out because it's awesome. Do whatever it is you got to do with it. It's great. Corey, Timberwolves start their season tonight. LA Lakers, prime time, 9:00 tip off because of course you get reminded that the Wolves are in the Western Conference.
National television.
Yes,
I get to watch. Amazing.
You're not going to watch on, by the way, it's not Bally Sports anymore. It's FanDuel Sports Network.
I bet you I won't watch a single second of FanDuel Sports.
People got mad, by the way, FanDuel Sports. They're like, sports gambling has gotten out of control. Look at now they're sponsoring a regional network. You guys, Bally Sports is betting. They make slot machines. They are a gambling operation. They're a legal gambling operation. How bad has this been for everybody involved since Sinclair Broadcasting bought all of those regional sports networks, made Diamond Sports Group. Diamond Sports Group sold the naming rights of their networks to Bally. Bally's had it for 3 years. They've been on 0 TVs. The network is going defunct, and you get replaced by FanDuel, and everybody is so mad that FanDuel is a betting operation sponsoring the network, and nobody cared that you were a gambling operation licensing over a sports network. The amount of brand recognition you got from that was 0. was 0. And it probably is good, because if you would have had any brand recognition from it, you'd be hated. So
they already are hated. They didn't need any more brand recognition. Burn it.
Diamond Sports Group, the people who run the broadcasting network are, but like Bally.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. They didn't need any more brand right. They already are hated.
Yeah,
No, I think the Wolves, CJ, are by the end of the year a better basketball team than they were last year.
Right.
I've come around to this idea.
That's the Western Conference Finals.
I do think they're probably not going to be, like, if they end up a 3 seed again, it's going to be not because they were in a tiebreaker with 2 other teams as the 1 seed. Like, I think a 3 seed for this team is probably about right. They probably win a couple fewer games, 2 or 3 fewer games than a season ago. But I think once all these pieces kind of gel together, we're going to be talking about a really fun Timberwolves year.
Yeah, I think a top 4 team in the West, I think, is pretty straightforward. How they get there, we'll see. Some new pieces to mesh in, but either way, it's going to be a fun Wolves season. They tip off tonight. TNT, we get to see Charles Barkley and the TNT crew rip on the Wolves at halftime again. But we'll see if they treat him any differently now that Cat's gone, because it feels like they had a weird fixation on Cat. So
no respect to Shaq and Charles. I don't care what they think.
This has been the Morning Sports Desk for Tuesday, the 22nd of October.
The Morning Sports Desk, available on demand on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts, and WadenaRadio.com.